Greetings, fellow cinephiles. Today we're going to be doing a tier list video. We're going to be tier listing the top 20 movies on IMDb. Now, last year I had made it my goal to watch all top 100 movies on IMDb, but a year later and I've only seen about 12 more than I had already seen previous. And some of those films I had seen have dropped off the top 100. So that might take a while. Instead, we're going to just be doing the top 20 today. So we got a tier list here. I'm going to run by these categories here. So, top 5 category, I put a film in there. That means for sure it deserves to be in the top 5 movies of all time. Same with top 10, but it's not quite top 5. It deserves to be in the top 10. Similar to top 20, these are films that, yeah, they deserve to be in the top 20. Now, the top 100, these are films I feel don't deserve to be in the top 20, but still deserve to be in the top 100. Then you have just Get It Out. It doesn't deserve to be in this top 100. Not sure if there's going to be any films like that. There are some films on this list that I'm not a major fan of, but I can still acknowledge their artistic importance or their impact on cinema. Now, any films that from this list that don't make it in the top 20, I will be looking through the top 100 and I'm going to be picking films that I would place in their place, like replace them with it. For instance, if let's say only 18 films get into these top 20 in these sections from the top 20 to the top 5, I'll pick two films from the top 100 to slot into the top 20. Hopefully that makes sense. But without further ado here, I did put these in order from uh, number 1 down to number 20 here. So, and get 27, number 20. I'm going to save all my opinions until I get to that film. So we're just going to start with number 1, Shawshank Redemption. I do believe this is a top 5 film here. Um, it is my fifth favorite film of all time, to be honest. Uh, it's weird because Shawshank Redemption is one of those movies I feel is artistically solid, but also digestible to a modern audience, to a general audience. So I feel like I'm trying to debate on if I should weight those two against each other, because there are some films on here that I feel are not as digestible to a modern audience as some other films. But that's kind of, you know, the best films of all time. Most of them, I would say, you wouldn't want to show them to just your average Joe moviegoer. But Shawshank Redemption, I feel like fits both those categories. I'm gonna try and take my personal preference out of this, but I think Shawshank Redemption, if not top 5, at least top 10 films of all time, it deserves that distinction. Moving on here, The Godfather. Now, I would say maybe the best film of all time, objectively. Like, it's hard to say. If there was like, name the best film of all time, don't put your personal bias into it. I'd either say Godfather. I think I would just say Godfather because there's other films like Citizen Kane that are like very important to the history of filmmaking, but I feel like you gotta take every aspect of the film. How well is it aged? Is it digestible to a modern audience? Like, you know, how good is it artistically? Are people from both sides of the general movie-going audience and the film buffs, I guess, the cinephiles? Are they both going to enjoy this film? Godfather, I will say, not as digestible as Shawshank Redemption, but I feel like it's more leaning toward that artistic end of the spectrum. That is kind of the thesis for this channel, actually, artistic popcorn, kind of the two types of films, artistic films and popcorn films. kind of coming together, or I like both artistic films and popcorn films, and kind of want to try and give some love to both of those aspects of films. I do lean toward artistic more than popcorn, but I do love me some popcorn films, specific popcorn films, I will say. But um, I'm gonna say most of these are probably gonna be on the artistic end of the spectrum. But I will try and get some like, are these like the popcorn aspect? Are these films gonna be digestible to a general audience? And that being said, I do think Shawshank is more digestible than The Godfather. But I just, maybe this, like, it's not even personal preference because I do like Shawshank Redemption more than The Godfather personally, but I feel on an objective scale, or at least the general populace would agree Godfather's a better film, although Shawshank is number one on IMDb, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But this is how I'm gonna do it. Top two films in the top five. The Dark Knight, which I love. I love The Dark Knight. I love Batman, and this is probably the best Batman movie. Not my favorite. I think I like Mask of the Phantasm more, just personally. I don't know. I like the Batman the animated series, so that movie is very, very good in my opinion. This is probably, I don't even want to say it's a Batman film. It's more of a, it's like it's a film first before it's a Batman film. If that makes any sense. And I'd also argue it's more of a Joker film. Mm, I mean, the Heath Ledger Joker is like iconic, and maybe the performance outshines everything else in the movie. Um, I'm gonna put it here in top 10. Mm, I love this film, and it's my favorite Christopher Nolan film. And there's gonna be some Christopher Nolan films on this list. Some that I don't really agree. I would put other Christopher Nolan films on the top 100 other than some of the other films here, but I would say this is Christopher Nolan's probably best film. My personal favorite, maybe not as best. I don't know. We'll come to those when we get there. I'm gonna put Dark Knight in the top 10. Maybe it's my Batman bias going here. But moving on here, we have Godfather Part 2. Now, I would put it on a similar level to Godfather Part 1, but I much prefer the first one. Maybe not much prefer, I do prefer the first one. Godfather Part 2 is a great film, 10 out of 10. I'd put most of these films, all four of these, in the 10 out of 10 category. They do exactly what they're trying to do. Yeah, and exceed, maybe even like these are like 11 out of 10 films. These are like a step above a lot of movies. Like these are the pinnacle of filmmaking here. Um, Godfather Part 2. I don't know if I want to drop it down to the top 10. I'm going to stay. Maybe I'll switch this later. For now, we're going to leave Godfather Part 2 in the top 5. I'm going to put it behind Shawshank here. Mm, I do think, maybe it's my personal preference, but I do think Godfather Part 2 is slightly inferior to Godfather, and I think Shawshank just fits in there. All of these films I've seen at least once, most of them twice. Godfather Part 2 I've only seen once. So maybe I do need to watch it again, but I think it's not as digestible. Maybe I'm overrating the digestibility of Godfather Part 1, but I feel like it was a more the tension was more taut. It was there. I feel like the flashbacks to Vito Corleone, his kind of rise to power. I feel like that hindered the pacing of the movie, at least toward a general audience. Hopefully that makes sense. How I'm doing this. It does feel weird to put Shawshank above Godfather, but hey, IMDb does that. So maybe I'm not too out of line here. Next up is 12 Angry Men, a fantastic film. I don't know if I would put it in the top 10 though. Like, I feel like there are other films that do what 12 Angry Men are doing. Not exactly what 12 Angry Men are doing, but like secluded area, one room film. They do go into the bathroom, but you know what I mean. It's just mostly dialogue and these characters just talking. And that sounds boring, but it's so well constructed and so well, I guess, acted as well. Can't forget that actors, they're a major piece of all these films. But it's so well told, this story, that something so as mundane as a jury meeting would be such a great film. It is a testament. I feel like some other films, like Citizen Kane, some like what we would consider early cinema, Casablanca. I feel like those films, films of that like, are better than this film. So I'm gonna put it. It does deserve to be high. I'm gonna put it top 20, low top 20. I do think it does. It does what it sets out to do perfectly. So maybe I'm putting it a bit too low. Um, I will say I do like this film more than what I mentioned, Casablanca and Citizen Kane, personally. And I feel like this is one of those that is like, yeah, this is a perfect execution of the vision. But I don't know, it just doesn't feel as grandiose, I guess, as these other films. The scope is narrowed, which helps the film, but I feel like it's gonna hurt it here in this tier list. Maybe uh, it's hard. It's hard to rate these films against each other. Some of the greatest films of all time against each other. I just feel like 12 Angry Men doesn't get put in the same conversation as these other ones, if that makes sense. Moving on, we got Lord of the Rings, and I think we have all three Lord of the Rings films here. This is Return of the King. I'm surprised Return of the King is the highest rated, but can't complain. All three of these movies are fantastic. Um, See, in my brain, they're all the same level. So wherever I put this one, I'm gonna have to put the other ones. I wish I could just put it all one movie, one 9 hour, or if we're doing extended editions, 100 hour experience into one slot. So I'm not taking up basically one slot with three movies, but that's the way it is. I think I just gotta put, oh, see, this is gonna be tough. I'm going to say the top 20s. I feel like out of all the films maybe in the top 20, bar maybe two, I'd say the Lord of the Rings films are the most digestible, which is weird saying that, since they're like uh, 3 hours, and if you're doing extended editions, then yeah, some people aren't going to be sitting through that. But yeah, I would argue that Dark Knight is more digestible. Like a 13-year-old, you unless they're really into fantasy, I guess. But I feel like 13-year-old would sit through Dark Knight, and that might be the most digestible film on this list. But yeah, I'm gonna put Lord of the Rings here. I'm probably gonna end up putting them all here, but we're gonna see as we go. Schindler's List. What a film. I'm gonna etched into the top 10. It barely makes the cusp, in my opinion. It's kind of in the same line as Saving Private Ryan, in that what a great depiction of the horrors of their eras. Because I feel like it's important to depict that to an audience, especially like a modern audience. Um, yeah, it's just a great film. I'm a sucker for black and white even like whenever modern films do that, The Lighthouse, one of my favorite, I guess, horror. Is it really horror? Uh, Lighthouse, one of my favorite modern films, does that black and white, and it just I feel like it just adds a nice ambiance. It adds to the story. I feel like I just can't speak today, but yeah, Schindler's List, a great film. Top 10. I might drag it down slightly, but that's where I'm putting it for now. Here's Fellowship of the Ring, first Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna put it right next to the other one. Um, I think the first one, Fellowship, is the weakest of the three. I don't really think of them as three separate films. Like, they were all just one big film to me. But I feel like that's a strength of the trilogy, that the fact that they set out to make three films. And it's like very coordinated. It's like probably one of the most coordinated trilogies ever because most trilogies start off with, oh, here's a film, it does well, let's make some sequels, you know? And this going in, knowing three films, direct vision, very well executed. Pulp Fiction. I am a fan of Quentin Tarantino. I do not, I'm not gonna say I don't like this film. Kind of overrated in my opinion. I think the Samuel Jackson stuff is the best part of the film, but it's only like the beginning and the end. Uh, that's like the only parts of the movie I really enjoy. Not to say that the rest of the movie isn't enjoyable. It's just not my favorite, you know. But I will say maybe objectively Quentin Tarantino's best film. I think um I prefer a lot of his work over Pulp Fiction. Uh, what's my favorite? I'd probably go Django Unchained is my favorite Quentin Tarantino film. The Inglourious Bastards is kind of on the same wavelength as Pulp Fiction in that the first 10 minutes of Inglourious Bastards is exceptional. And the dinner scene, of course, but I'd put that opening scene in Inglourious Bastards much higher than the rest of the film. It's kind of like up, if you catch my meaning. But this is Pulp Fiction. Um, taking my personal bias out of this, I think it sneaks into the top 10. It's very good. It's got iconic scene after iconic scene. You you know, shows that do parodies of this like The Simpsons, they'll like you could parody the whole movie because it's so iconic. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in the top 10. I'm actually going to put it above Schindler's List, which is I much prefer all of these films over Pulp Fiction, but I think objectively Pulp Fiction is a top 10 movie because it's kind of hard to take my personal bias out of this and look at it objectively. And even looking at films objectively, you're never ever going to get a clear sign of a better film over another. Yeah, unless it's like the discrepancy is massive. But still, we're going to leave Pulp Fiction there. Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Oh, very best Western film, probably. I mean, yeah, it's here. It's the only Western film here. And yeah, it's just very good. Not digestible to like, you take some random Joe Schmo off the street, and you're like, pick one of these films and make sure he has a good time. I don't know if I'd show him this unless he was like really into westerns. I do think the gunslinging aspect of this film helps to elevate it toward a more general audience enjoyment, but it is long and it is old, which kind of hurts a lot of these films. Uh, Godfather also long and old, but I feel like the its strength elevates it more than Good and Bad and the Ugly. Um, This kind of feels bad because I love Good, Badly, Ugly, but I think it's the first one I gotta say outside the top 20. Maybe, maybe just, I'm gonna leave it here. I feel terrible. I, the score, the little, the sting is iconic, maybe one of the most, if not the most iconic, just sounds in film. But I think I just gotta leave it outside the top 20. Still in the top 100, though. Fantastic film. We got the last Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna do this, which I think is how. No, they had it like this, but I feel like I'm gonna do this. Maybe even like this. But that's getting into personal preference. And I think just because IMDb had it like this, I'm gonna put these three in the order IMDb had it. Because for me, it's very hard to elevate one over the other. Except I do feel like Fellowship is the weakest of the three, maybe. But we'll move on. Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump. Um, Personally, I just enjoy Forrest Gump. But I think it does deserve to be in the top 100, but not in the top 20. It is iconic, quoted. Uh, it's kind of hard to say this film's iconic and is quoted a lot because every single one of these films is iconic and quoted. Maybe not Schindler's List in terms of quoted, but it's like that's not the point of the film. And I guess 12 Angry Men. I don't know what's some quotes from 12 Angry Men. You work your life out. Yeah, this mm, maybe I think I just gotta put 12 Angry Men down here, which hurts. And now we got a nice rectangle going on here, but we might be moving these around. Fight Club, David Fincher, I believe. One more David Fincher film on this list, unless I'm mistaken. Who did? We'll get to that. Whatever. David Fincher at least has one more film on this top 20 list. And where does Fight Club go? What a. So going into this film, I knew the twist. I think that enhanced my experience, if I'm being honest. There is kind of a. I saw a study that said that if you get spoiled for something, you're more likely to enjoy it. But I gotta take my personal preference out of here and just say I feel like Fight Club. I feel like there's more films that got that are not in the top 20 that deserve to be in the top 20 more than Fight Club. But I will put it at the top here. Yeah, I would say this is correct. Really hard to think objectively. But I just feel like Fight Club has more of a lasting impression on cinema than these. Forrest Gump, one of those films that is very digestible and maybe does have more of a impact on society. But I feel like Fight Club has more of an impact on cinema, if that makes any sense. I might be mistaken. I am not a filmmaker. I am not, the most knowledgeable film enjoyer. I'm more of a book person anyway, but I do really like films. These films are fantastic. Inception, probably my least favorite movie on this list, but I cannot deny its just impact. Um, Another Christopher Nolan, probably my least favorite of the Christopher Nolan films I've seen. I have not seen Tenet or Dunkirk. I do prefer Memento. Uh, I slightly prefer Interstellar. Was not a fan of the Inception, but I can't deny. I think I Gotta put it in the top 20. The ideas it presents, the just the whole, the buildings, like foldings, the ideas this film provides is enough, I feel, to sneak it into the top 20. And I think I got it. Nah, I'm trying hard to separate my personal bias here. I feel like Lord of the Rings films did have more of an impact on cinema than Inception. Maybe I'm being weird about that. I feel like, you know, it led to other such, you know, book to screen adaptations down the line. I think this was like the major starting point for that, and it's like a thing that's still going. So maybe put him in the top 10, but then there goes my 6 through 10. So I'm gonna just leave him in the top 20. Fight Club might sneak into the top 20 territory. We'll see. Um, Star Wars Episode 5 Empire Strikes Back. The best Star Wars film. And you might even say the only great Star Wars film. I think New Hope is the only one I would say deserves to be in the top 100. I'm going to put them here right now, not keeping them here, just going to put it here so I don't have to hold it. Maybe I would keep it there. It's like New Hope. I know this is Empire Strikes Back. Going to talk about New Hope for a second. New Hope gets a lot of love because it was the first one, very groundbreaking, insanely groundbreaking, um, iconic shot after iconic shot. But Star Wars Empire Strikes Back is definitely the better of the two, in my opinion. I think I might be scooping in the New Hope, you know, the achievements of New Hope into Empire Strikes Back, but I'm gonna leave Empire Strikes Back here. I feel like this is the not a fan of Return of the Jedi. I feel like it's very weak compared to the other two in the original trilogy. But I do think the trilogy itself is I don't want to say mandatory viewing. I don't think there's any film ever that's mandatory viewing. Like Godfather, objectively maybe at least one of the best films of all time. I would never say, oh, you need to watch The Godfather. Even for someone that like wants to get into cinema, wants to have a understanding of cinema. I don't feel there's any films that are must watch. Hmm. But yeah, Empire Strikes Back. This might be my personal preference speaking here. But I am gonna put it above Inception. Below Lord of the Rings. I don't know. It's like the same thing. Like the original Star Wars trilogy did to sci-fi. I mean, it's hard because, there's the debate, is Star Wars sci-fi or fantasy? I get both points. Like it has very strong fantasy elements in Star Wars, and it just kind of just takes place in space. I'm gonna put it there. Maybe I'm putting Lord of the Rings a bit higher because all three films are strong. All three films tell a cohesive story. Not that Star Wars doesn't all tell a cohesive story, but it's also like the third one drags it down. The series overall, not Empire. Hmm. Matrix. I feel like well, it deserves to be in the top 100 alone just for its impact on the movie industry, does it? I'd actually argue it's more important than uh, hmm, what has more impact. I'm gonna say Matrix top 20. And actually, I'm gonna bring. I feel like Matrix has to be top 10. It's just very. It is pop culture. Like, especially around that time, every film was doing a parody of the bullet time, the slow motion stuff. I feel like its quality is maybe not as good as some of these other ones, but its importance puts it up there. The idea is it puts forth, the blue pill, red pill. Some of these films, the issues they represent are not always going to be present, and this kind of just, as long as there's structure, this film will have a place in this film's themes will have a place, if that makes sense. I am curious, what do you, after this is done, leave in the comments, agree or disagree. It could be your own personal preferences or, uh, I guess, a more objective stance, but objective is hard to do. In even objective, you're kind of going off of what the opinions of the masses are. Like that's kind of what objective means, is what is everyone's subjective thing. Goodfellas. Big fan of Goodfellas. But it is like, yeah, personally I'd put it in top 10, but no. But not top 20 material in my opinion. I'd even say it might be the weakest here. Strong film. I'd put it in the top 100, but um not as high as top 20, which hurts me to say because Goodfellas is just great. But I feel like there's other films that are stronger. Interstellar, same thing, but I am going to put it higher because of the technological aspects of it. See, it, I feel like I'm surprised Interstellar's here and not 2001: A Space Odyssey. I feel like 2001: A Space Odyssey is a stronger space film. Neither of them are really surprisingly similar, actually, in that aspect. They're both about space and time. I don't even know what I'm saying. I think I gotta just plop Interstellar here. Not the biggest fan of Interstellar, but I cannot deny its impact. Another Christopher Nolan. I think he's the one who appears on here the most, unless there's another David Fincher film. I Spielberg did Schindler's List, but yes. No, wait. Peter Jackson has three films in here too. That's sure, sure. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. This is the one is closest to the Get Out. It is a great film. It's a fantastic film, but I don't think I'm gonna put it in Get Out. I think it deserves to be in the top 100, but it is the closest to being on the edge. I read the book and then watched the movie for school. Big fan of both. I think they hold equally. They're weighted equally in my brain. I don't prefer one over the other. Um, I'm not really judging any of these on their like a lot of these are based off books. I'm not judging the quality of adaptation, except for maybe Lord of the Rings. Like, I think the reason they're so well regarded is how well they adapted Lord of the Rings. Fight Club is an adaptation that is up there. I mean, Godfather, that's an adaptation. Shawshank Redemption is an adaptation. Most of these are adaptations. That's what most films are, basically. Yeah, back to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's just not as iconic to a wider film audience. You have someone who's edging into a cinephile status, someone who's studying film, studying the the top films. I feel like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest just doesn't hit the same aspects as all of these films do. It is a great film, but I am going to put it here. And it is edging into the Get Out. Like, I would put it like I still put it in the top 100, but if someone were like, it's 105, makes sense to me. Seven, big fan of Seven. I prefer it over Fight Club, but I feel like Fight Club is more impactful. Seven is just a nice tension filled crime drama, whereas Fight Club has something more to say. I guess like what's like the overall message of Seven? Like what is the message of Seven? I guess it's like the moral acceptance of sin, I guess, but like at the end, maybe it's like the acceptance of some sin. Because at the end, man, I really actually need to do a deep dive, like a personal deep dive with Seven, because it feels like at the end, I don't want to spoil anything actually. Like this is a, but there's like at the end, someone does something and it's not forgiven. Hopefully, you guys know what I'm putting down. Um, in regard in a reaction to things, someone does something and it is not it is not forgotten, it is not pushed to the side, which I feel like the film, maybe its aspect is how accepted sin, like the seven sins are, or most of them, I guess. But that's kind of more of the villain's perspective. Maybe I just don't understand Seven quite yet enough to accurately place it. I just feel like Fight Club is has more prevalent message, a more prevalent idea that it's trying to represent than Seven. But I will put Seven here because I feel like the twist has elevated it. Same with Fight Club. Both of these I just realized how similar these movies are because of yeah. But yeah, I am gonna put it here. So I'm cutting out a lot of these great films out of the top 20, but I feel like and uh I would say all of these films, yeah, all these films deserve to be in the top 20. I just feel like there are other films that fit more. So I need 8 films to replace these. Let's check it out. Silence of the Lambs, definitely one I'm going to be picking. Seven Samurai, um, very good. Not at all digestible to an modern English audience. I don't think it's digestible. But I am going to be picking it because I feel like you have to have some foreign flair in the top 20. And there are a lot of great foreign films. I feel like Americans kind of overlook foreign films, and there are just a plethora of foreign films that are as good, if not more, if not greater than a lot of the films on this list. But I'm gonna put Silence of the Lambs and Seven Samurai in there, and I got 6 more, I believe. It's very City of God is great, but I don't think Terminator 2 Judgment Day, maybe the greatest action film? It's up there with like Die Hard and the first Indiana Jones as like great action films. Uh, I'm tempted to pick Judgment Day, Terminator 2, but we're gonna move on here. Back to the Future, Spirited Away, The Pianist, Gladiator, Parasite is phenomenal. Grave of the Fireflies, Psycho. Psycho, here's one that's just iconic. I think I gotta pick Psycho. Yeah. Lion King, personal. This one's personal for me. Tied for my favorite film with, I believe, one other. There's a four-way tie for my favorite film, and I believe two of them are in the top 100. I don't want to pick Lion King because it is so personal to me, but I feel like there does have to be some animation representation. You could pick Spirited Away, but I feel like maybe it's just personal preference. I feel like Lion King is just slightly more. And I think Spirited Away, I prefer Princess Mononoke, but I understand Spirited Away. I'm actually going to pick both Spirited Away and Lion King. Um, I forget where I'm at now, but I will pick both of those because I feel like they're both. Oh, top 20 though? Top 20? Top 100 for sure. But top 20 is like rarefied air. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I gotta look back to see how many picks I still have. So far, I'm picking Silence of the Lambs, Seven Samurai. I think I just have to pick Terminator because it's like the perfect representation of that genre. It is a 10 out of 10. It is weird. I was thinking when I was doing this, I was thinking if Alien comes up, I would put Alien there. Alien and Aliens and Terminator 2, very similar, yet I prefer Alien over Aliens, but I prefer Terminator 2 over Terminator. I wonder why that is. Very curious. But yeah, Terminator 2 is my number 3 pick there. Gonna go Spirited Away. It was Psycho. Psycho. Where was Psycho at? Psycho. And then Lion King, I'm at 6. So I need, I think, 2 more? Yes, 2 more. And it's gonna be tough. Both the Spider-Man Spider-Verse films are fantastic. And if someone were to say they'd put them in there, in replacing the other two animation films I put in there, no, I would not be opposed to that. Casablanca, here's one that I feel could go in there just because of how important it is to cinema. I think I have to pick that one. Yeah, Casablanca's going in, and one more, and we're not even at the halfway through looking at this list. There's Alien. Let's just take a look. There's Indiana Jones. I'm not gonna do any of the Marvel films. I feel like Infinity War, it 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 has its place in the top 100 for its importance in the movie industry, but I wouldn't put it top 20. Is the Shining Great Dictator, perhaps also important. Aliens. There's my other personal favorite, Toy Story. Would just think not on an objective level as the other films. So I'm going to leave Toy Story off. Does deserve to be in the top 100. Definitely. There's Princess Mononoke. I'm not going to comment on anything unless I feel. Oh, here we go. So I have one pick left. I didn't see anything else that stuck out to me. So I feel like. And there's no. Had Citizen Kane showed up, I would have picked Citizen Kane. But since Citizen Kane is not in the top 100 on IMDb, I think I just gotta give it to Casablanca. So yeah, if I was, if for some reason I was tasked to put the top 20 films on there, but they have to be in the top 100 on IMDb, that's what I'd do. These 12, hopefully I can remember. Silence of the Lambs, that's great. That would go in probably top 10 and maybe even eke into the top 5, but that might also be just personal. But I think it's very good. Got Lion King and uh, Spirited Away. I do prefer Princess Mononoke, but I feel like Spirited Away is more impactful to a wider audience. We got Seven Samurai. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As I love Seven Seal, which is my personal favorite foreign film, especially from the time. But I think Seven Samurai has a more open, uh, has more impact on films, including this one, I believe. So I would probably actually put Seven Samurai. Oh, I guess in I'm gonna be taking out Good, Bad, and the Ugly and putting in Seven Samurai. Hmm, yeah, that makes sense in my brain. Um, we got Terminator 2. I'm Fight Club's tempted me, but I feel like Terminator 2 just has more impact than Fight Club. I feel like more people have seen Terminator 2. I feel like it's just in the pop culture, in the zeitgeist more than Fight Club. Then, yeah, Casablanca. I would have picked Citizen Kane over Casablanca, but Casablanca is like the next one. Like, all right, we couldn't get Citizen Kane, put in Casablanca. Similar Psycho, just groundbreaking for tension and horror. You know, that's like quintessential. And I think looking at the rest of these, hopefully I just had seven and didn't I just didn't pick the last one. I think I just gotta go with Alien. Maybe it's like sitting in the same aspect as Terminator 2 or Psycho, but I feel like those are the films I gotta pick. There are a plethora of great films here that you pick one over the other, you can't really fight it because they're here. They're in the top 100 on IMDb, and they're here for a reason. Some more than others, I guess most people would say, but I mean, especially this top 20, you can't go wrong with any of these films. Heyo, Editor Cameron here. I just wanted to say that I had decided to move 12 Angry Men up into the top 20. I mean, it's basically a perfect film. It does what it sets out to do perfectly, and I think it deserves to be in the top 20. I'm actually gonna put it above maybe even Star Wars here. Maybe Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I don't know why. I just, before 12 Angry Men, I guess I was thinking more in terms of what a general audience would enjoy, or maybe I was just not taking everything into account when I was grading 12 Angry Men. So yeah, in my opinion, 12 Angry Men makes it. And so which one I picked to replace these am I taking out is the question. I think I just have to go with Psycho. Um, which uh, yeah, I think I just gotta go Psycho out, 12 Angry Men in. Um, Fight Club, very close. I'm gonna say no, but it's very close. And I did want to say Toy Story. I specifically did not pick Toy Story just because I didn't want my own, I didn't want too much of a personal bias in this tier list. I will say I do feel Toy Story is a perfect film. And it's just a matter of I didn't want my personal bias to be so representative in this. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of this. Hopefully, it was enjoyable for you all. It was enjoyable for me. I like doing tier lists and rankings and stuff, and more to come pretty soon. Oh well, until next time, farewell, fellow cinephiles.